So today we're going to be looking at the Index Magic Pro by Drawer. This video is sponsored by our free Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Take your trading to the next level through automating the London breakout and the opening range breakout. Click the link in the description to download the EA completely for free. So Drawer has actually been in my community and I've known him for almost a year by now, I'd say. So I've been in touch with him for a while and he asked me to take a look at this bot. So I always like to tell people when developers ask me to look at their bots, just because in the full interest of transparency, I think it's useful for our viewership to know that. Also, I never take any payment for these videos. If anybody wants to pay me, I won't accept any compensation. But Drawer's a good guy. I know he's been trading for a while, particularly in prop firms. So I was actually excited to look at his strategy and see what he came up with, and just to kind of assess the bot and see if it's exciting. And effectively here, this is a very high risk reward style bot that trades the NASDAQ. And what's quite neat here is he's been trading manually for a while, I believe, and he's now kind of starting to dive into developing his own expert advisors. And I wanted to kind of see how he managed to translate more of a manual trading strategy into an automated trading approach. And he's quite transparent here in that what this bot is actually doing. And he says that he's looking for impulse candles or momentum candles, candles with small wicks, and he's looking for the levels created by those candles in order to refine his entries. And then apparently he uses both a rejection strategy, so he waits for price to come back to test the level created by that candle and then bounce, or he's looking for more of a breakout strategy when essentially there's a continuation beyond a certain level. And I've done something similar here with my golden missile system, where essentially you look for an impulse candle. You can even place a pending order at the wick of that level and kind of wait for a further continuation. So this style of strategy does work. Like, I've done something similar. I believe the Gold Energy, I believe, is another bot in the MQL5 marketplace that does use a similar style strategy. So the concept of impulse candles is nothing new. It's been around for a while. It's a real strategy. However, you don't see it as frequently in the MQL5 marketplace. So curious to see why Drawer chose to use this particular approach. But overall, there is something here. There is a real strategy, and this can work. And he's also saying, and he's very transparent, that this system does have a very low win rate. I believe he's going for around a 20% win rate here, but with sometimes a 1 to 10 risk reward. So he's really kind of leaning on the super high risk reward relative to a fairly low win rate. But you do have to be careful as well that it can work, you have to be careful that if you're using too much risk, you can have quite a heavy drawdown. So if you have a super low win rate system, you really need to size down, because he's saying here you can have 20 losses in a row. If you're risking 1% per trade and you have 20 losses in a row, that can perhaps be quite significant. And effectively, we can see that it runs on the NAS 100 on the M5 time frame, all of which is quite interesting. He has been running it here for a few months, and he has a live signal. I believe this is a demo account, and it's been running for a few months, 2 of which have been profitable. The last one has not been profitable. And I guess it's because the NASDAQ has been a bit choppier the past month, so this type of super high risk reward system would likely not be ideal in more of a ranging market condition. So that all makes sense to me too. So far it's looking quite interesting, and I've taken the liberty of downloading it and running a quick back test. And once again, we can see that it does appear to be doing exactly what he says it's doing. Like here, if there's false breakouts, there will be small losers. Same thing up here and here. However, if we do have a big break, we can actually have these pretty significant wins. And this would be another example, like a true breakout, and then it can have some really big wins. So it's letting the winners run and cutting your losers short. So it's a classic trend following model. It is technical. It's a technical system by nature, and is entering using a momentum candle. However, this is very much a tried and tested strategy of more of a trend following super high risk reward system. So good on Drawer for developing this. If we look at the deals or two, we can see that they are occurring at different times of the day. So not a particular type of time-based filter, for instance. We can also see that I believe that he must be using an actual TP. So he's not using a trailing stop loss if it is taking profit, it is indeed using a TP, because we're seeing that when it loses, it's red, and when it wins, it's green. And if we look at the backtest report, we can see that yes, like you are winning only 20% of the time, and your average profit rate is quite a bit higher than your average loser. There is a not quite 1 to 10, but more like 1 to 5, or a little bit higher than that here, which is giving us that risk reward, and that's why we're seeing a positive expected value. And really, I think the good takeaway here is that you can have a win rate which is 5% and still make money, provided your expected value, provided your risk reward is high enough, and vice versa. You can have a super inverted risk reward, but if you have a 99% win rate, you can still make money. So once again, it goes back to the concept of expected value. So interesting strategy here. And for our final test, let's run a quick visual back test to see if we can discern anything else. So there's no indicators or anything going, so it's a pure price action based system. Okay, so we're not getting much more coming out of that, but it is very much a price action based system. And maybe for one more thing, we can look at the input settings. We can see that it does actually have a time filter, but it's kind of isolated to New York session, which makes sense. Automatic close, it closes end of day, makes sense. It's trading both strategies. It's having a clear technical entry. It is running a trailing, oh interesting, so it is running a trailing stop loss too. But it's interesting because he was closing with a take profit, not with a trailing stop loss. So maybe there's a couple different options there, and you're able to toggle them on and off, and you're able to add a prop firm randomizer. So overall, this looks quite interesting actually. There is a real strategy here. He has put some good thought to it. The one thing I would wait for maybe is to see a bit of a longer live signal, just to see if it keeps matching the back test and how it performs going forward. Particularly like this style of system, if it's purely technical, you could run into some market regimes which don't fit the strategy. But overall, good on Jor for coming up with it. He's a good guy, and I think he's managed to put some interesting thoughts here. So the one thing I'd wait for is, let's see if the performance kind of recovers from this more lull period and we see another jump up. If that happens, I think it could be a pretty interesting bot. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.